this whole process has been crazy and grace-filled from both churches' perspectives. And it's unique. It's distinct. This just doesn't happen everywhere.
Welcome to the podcast, Distinct People, Distinct Time, a conversation on congregational life in the 21st century. I'm today's host, Jeff Long, and joined with our worship pastor, Chad Pollard, to do a special episode of what it looks like when a staff member comes to a time to leave a church that does things distinct. So Chad, I appreciate you sitting down with me, and we've had plenty of opportunity to process this, but to help the church process. So today you made an announcement that you're in the final stage of search process with Calvary Baptist in Winston-Salem. Okay. So explain what that means.
Sure.
What's next?
Sure. Yeah, so both their polity, how they govern their church, it looks just like ours. And the congregation has the final say. Right. So the congregation hasn't voted yet.
Right.
So what this stage moves to is I go there in person, and I'm going to lead rehearsals and lead worship just like I do at Parkwood for 1 week. And then their congregation will either vote me out or vote me in. They'll either affirm or not affirm me coming as their worship and arts pastor. And at that point would be the time that I would resign to you and the elders and make it official that I'm leaving as the pastor here of worship.
So their stages work out. Your last Sunday here would be
August 8th.
Mm-hmm. And that will allow you and your family to get moved. You still have kids in school and lots of things to happen. So how is this different than just a normal resignation? We call this distinct people. I want people to understand some distinctness about how we do things and how we're able to work together as a team. So flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not being hired to do a job. It's a ministry, so it's a calling. Making sure that all of our hearts align, and making sure God's closing a door here and opening one there. So the process just looks totally different. It didn't start 2 weeks ago, and then I suddenly am hired somewhere. It's been a long process and a thoughtful process from really both churches' perspectives.
Right. So. We'll talk more about that, how it's not been in the dark, but tell us how you got here, Chad. I mean, we all know and love you. You've been here 13 years. So tell us how you didn't just wake up one morning and say, hey, it's time to go.
Right.
So tell people about it.
Well, I think we all woke up during COVID a couple of times and said it's time to go. But no, we didn't get to this process this way. 6 years ago, my father-in-law had a heart attack, and it happened like on a Friday or Thursday, and I missed Sunday morning worship to be with the family there. And I think it was the first time for Dawn and I that we looked and we saw that the next season in our life was going to be caring for aging parents. And we are close in proximity to our parents. We only live about an hour and a half away. But both sets of parents live an hour and a half away, and there's not a ton of family that still lives in that area. So we've been traveling back and forth doing some things over the years, and then it escalated when my dad, during the pandemic, got a confirmed diagnosis of dementia, and his health has really declined. He has his primary caregiver, of course, is my mom, and then I do have one older brother that lives in that area. But that creates an environment where even my older brother doesn't feel like he can leave town because my dad really does need not constant care yet, although we're probably approaching that. But there needs to be somebody near him in close proximity in case something goes wrong. My younger brother is also a pastor. He's down in Mebane area at the Summit Church. And my brother and I had a conversation one day that maybe one of us should consider going back. And we didn't say a lot about that. We just prayed about it. And I felt like that given where Parkwood was leadership at that point and where he was in his campus, that it probably would be better for us to pray about that. And so we did. And initial contact was made with really not one church, but two. And from that point on, that's just sort of led us to this moment in time.
Yeah. And, and share about how this fits together. Cameron as well, your son.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, that was very, very difficult for musicians. Cameron is growing as a French horn player, but he wasn't able to play with people or for people. He still today hasn't had an in-person lesson because his teacher has some health risk. So he was struggling through this whole year and decided that he really wanted to audition for the North Carolina School of the Arts, which is where I went to college.
Right.
They have a high school program, and he wanted to do his senior year there. So we threw caution at the wind, and he tried out. Obviously, has been accepted, and so he was already moving to Winston-Salem, regardless of where this all landed. So it's just the 4 others of us are joining him in his journey.
Yeah. So the unusual nature of this and our relationship. The 2 of us and the relationship with leadership here.
Yeah.
So share in this process when you told me.
Yeah.
Because it's July the 18th. So tell people when that happened.
I don't remember the exact date, but sometime around February, March, I sat down with you and told you that this was a possibility. And it's funny, Jeff, I think I'd had one in-person with another congregation. I hadn't even had an in-person with Calvary yet.
Right.
And when I had the in-person with the other congregation, I went home and I talked to Dawn. And she actually was the first one to say, you can't go any further unless you talk to Jeff. And I was super nervous about that in my flesh because I felt like that would just make me a lame duck on the staff team, or that they were going to go, and I knew this wasn't going to happen, but in my mind, I'm thinking churches everywhere when stuff like this happens, they go, well, just clean your desk out and go. It's like, I don't want that to happen for me. So selfishly, I sort of hung on to it tightly. But from the first time that you and I talked, you shepherded my heart just as you'd done 13 years prior. And this whole process has been crazy and grace-filled from both churches' perspectives. And it's unique. It's distinct. This just doesn't happen everywhere. So you have walked with me from that point on. It wasn't short. I think 2 weeks later, we told the elders.
Right.
And the same grace was poured out on me from them. And then when it got to a place where I was to face-to-face interviews with worship staff members, we told the worship staff here, the ones who are here full-time, we told at that point. And just, we've unfolded this step by step, slowly. And I know, man, it's been a long process. And I feel like at times everybody's patience has been like on edge. But at the same time, I felt grace poured out and love and kindness every step of the way.
And we've sought to be supported. So I want everyone listening to understand. I've not been back to that restaurant. It was the first time. I'm not going to name it, but I don't know. I didn't say anything much. Inside I was struggling. The elders were struggling, and I know congregation struggling. That we love you, we love your family, and it's a good grief, but we understand and embrace and encourage what you're doing for your family and for a local church. So it has been unique, and it has been a blessing to watch. I'm just pleased with leadership team and how we've worked together in the midst of this, and the elders, and where it's going. So let me just say to the church, I mentioned this, a nationwide search has already begun. So that's part of the uniqueness, because Chad has been able to share that with us, and it goes public tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we are already looking, and we're using an organization that helps you find staff members. They helped us find Laney, and they think they will have names for us at the end of September for us to move forward. Right. So in the meantime, Chad, you're still working. Like you say, you're not a lame duck. I haven't treated you like that. So share with people what you've already put together after August 8th.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of the beauty of what has transpired. And I wish so much for so many other churches. That takes a partnership. So I've shown up for work every day and tried to work my hardest, and then tried to work myself out of the situation to make sure that everybody's in place that needs to be in place. And then you've graciously allowed me to show up for work every day. And I've never been excluded from a meeting. I was a part of the women's discipleship search process, interviewing her, and what joy and excitement I have for that. So I've never been treated that way. But I think a lot of churches are just scared. And I know that's a trust on both sides. But yes, so we have planned services at this point all the way till the end of September. We have lined up guests who will come in and just encourage the team, the worship team here, and encourage the church. Friends of mine that I trust will continue to lead. The worship staff knows that they can call me anytime, and I will be more than happy to help do whatever. So my goal is just a seamless transition from my ministry here to the next person. And I am excited. I believe that God is going to bring somebody great to Parkwood Baptist Church. This is a great place to do ministry. So it doesn't escape me that person may watch this video. And so
I'm sure they will.
I want him to know that he will be blessed by this body of people. We have felt nothing but love and kindness and grace. And so I'm excited about the future. It's bittersweet that I don't get to be a part of it. But I'm excited about the future here.
So the consultant that's working with us, not been here live yet, but was watching the service and said to me, I didn't think Chad was there. Then all of a sudden there he was singing. And I said, well, that's how we do things.
Right.
And that helped the thought process going forward, but it's helped us be ready for this. Because folks, we're not hiring an interim. Chad has raised up and developed a team of a capable, excellent staff that is paid and works here, and Colin and Jay, who will take the lead and have us prepared on Sunday. And you have prepared our people, members of this church, to lead vocally with instruments and other means, the choir, so that we can press forward. And so that, just clarity, your friends and others, they're not coming every week. It's just once a month.
Right.
And they're not candidates.
Right.
Because we asked them several months ago. They're not. They're very committed to where they are, but they are willing to come and bless our church and help us in the midst of this process. So thank you for not stopping your work and helping us get ready, because like I told you, I have no idea how to do that. I just want to be there to encourage and help others along the way. So what are some of the things that you just want to say to the congregation?
Sure. I talked about this some, or will have talked about this some on Sunday morning. I am not leaving this congregation because I'm displeased with Parkwood Baptist Church. Right. If it was in closer proximity to our families, that would be like the dream come true for us. We love it here, and we've raised our family here. We're not leaving for that reason. I couldn't be more excited about the staff team, both the worship staff team and the pastoral staff team, than I am right now. I love coming to work here. Jeff, I have loved coming to work here almost every day that my car has pulled in off of New Hope Road. I've loved every moment of it for 13 years, and that hasn't changed. Today, when I drove into this campus, I loved being here. So we are not leaving for that reason. We are not leaving because anyone has asked us to or been unkind to us. The elders have been so supportive. As a matter of fact, I've made a joke about it. I wish they would be mean about something, because then it'd be easier to leave. But they've been so kind and so gracious towards us that it's just made it all the more hard to say, we just feel like God's moving us. Right. And the same is true for you, brother. I mean, for 13 years, we have labored together, and I've never felt like I was laboring by myself. I felt like we were laboring together for the sake of the gospel. So I just want the church to know how much we leave feeling loved and encouraged and embraced by them. And there's not an ounce of any animosity of any kind. I can't say that I ever left a church like I'm leaving Parkwood. And I think that's because this is a distinct church, a distinct people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to save what I'm going to say to the very end, because I may not get through what you just got through. What do you want your last few Sundays to look like, Chad?
So I know this is emotional. I know this is hard. I mean, clearly I'm emotional. But I want us to make much of Jesus. It's what we've done for 13 years. I want to do that again. I don't want to make much of me. I just want to make much of Christ. So I want to be able to sing the gospel with joy. And I want to hear the people sing again. That again is distinct about Parkwood. For those who've never been here, there are times where I in my in-ears, I struggle sometimes to hear my own voice because I hear the congregation singing so loud. And that's not something that happened 13 years ago. That's something that has progressed through the 13 years. And I want to do that again. And so I want these last few Sundays to be about Christ and making much of him and the gospel.
Yes. And my same prayer. And, I've had people ask me, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And I said, no, I'm telling you, before I ever ask you that question, Chad's going to want us to do what we do every week the same way, exalt Christ and not make this about him. And that is the best way to send him. That's what he's going to want. So without me, I've said what I knew about you because that's the way you have approached things. That's how we have approached things together. So will we see you again, brother? And we know we will in heaven, but will we see you again?
Oh, brother, I pray so. Cameron and Cody, we moved here 13 years ago, and they were 5, and Cade was not even 1 yet. This is the only church that they've ever known. So I'm just preparing Parkwood for Pollard boys to show up, and they're going to be around. They are hurting because they're leaving their friends who have encouraged them in their faith, and those relationships are going to continue. We have great friendships here. We are going to come, and I feel like I can. I feel like it right here, sitting here today, I feel like I could come back to a special service or even a Sunday morning and be a part of the congregation, and it would be like picking up right where we left off. And that's my prayer. I want to be available to the church to help in any way that I can. And we will be back. This is not, our two churches are so aligned in so many ways too, that we already our partners in various ways. Yes. And I pray that continues and grows into the future.
And that for those who don't know, the history between Calvary and Parkwood goes back. Ned and Mark Courts were super close and instrumental in what happened in MO. They were working together. So, and just like-minded church, and at a point to where you're the right person. And I've said that to Will, and you're the right person for right now, given the juncture of where Calvary is and into their future. That hurts me to have to say that, but you have prepared us for who that next person is supposed to be here, and to take us into the future as a congregation. I want to say something about your family. I'm not talking to you. I'm going to talk to the church for a minute.
Sure.
So Parkwood, be careful what you say to Dawn, Cameron, Cody, and Cade. Be careful. Don't allude to anything negative with those boys or his wife. I know you're hurting. They had nothing to do with this, right?
Right.
And sometimes our families are the ones that get the negative comment, not us. And that's extremely painful. Love these people. Love Chad's family. That will bless him more than anything. Send them in a manner worthy of God. I know you will. But in our grief, we all say things we don't mean to say.
Sure.
So we all got to work through the grief right here. This is a good grief.
Right.
I'm glad we're grieving. We love you. We love your family. But let's do it in a Christ-honoring way. So, Chad, I could say a lot of things. So I'm just going to tell you what I have said about you. I want to encourage and bless you because of your heart for worship. Because you worship God, we worship with you. You could perform, Chad, but you don't. And that's what I told Will. You could. You're incredibly gifted, musically in so many different ways, but you lead us to worship God. You're a leader. You lead the staff, you lead the team, and people may not see all that, but you lead people, and you do it with excellence. Excellence without being mean. You're not mean to people. You get them to excellence and to doing it right. And I'm going to miss those things, but we're going to expect those things. So Parkwood, we're going to expect those things. We're not bringing a diva up in here to perform. We're bringing a worship pastor to lead us. He's got to be a leader, and he's got to do it with excellence. And I pray this last thing will become true. You're my friend. And I'm going to miss, in the midst of my study, walking down to your office and just talking. God has knit our hearts together, and it was evident this morning when we went over the response phone for Sunday, and I knew you had it right, and you play it for me, and I'm like, that's it. That's it. And that's the way it's been between us. And it's been a partnership and a friendship, and the Lord bless you and keep you as you go and use you in a powerful way. This has been an episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time, a ministry of Parkwood Baptist Church, where we exist to glorify God by laboring together for the growth of all believers while going with the gospel to all peoples. You can learn more about Parkwood by going to parkwoodonline.org, and you can find resources like this one from the church by going to parkwoodresources.org.